Howdy my totally, as always, Tubular gamers, we're back with another video. It's like looking in a mirror. So today we're going to be doing a ranking video on a series of racing games released on Nintendo platforms, and it's not Mario Kart. That's coming soon enough, I assure you. No, today we're going to be talking about the Fast series. And so a few of you, most of you, probably are going, what the hell is the Fast series? Well, the Fast series is a series of futuristic racing games released exclusively for Nintendo platforms. Still not with me here? Maybe you'll recognize some of the titles in this series. Do you remember Fast RMX? It was the Switch 1 launch title. Have you heard of Fast Fusion, the Nintendo Switch 2 launch title? Have you heard of Fast Racing Neo for the Wii U? Okay, probably not that one, but how about this deep cut? Do you remember Fast Racing League, released exclusively for WiiWare in 2011? Well, that's actually all of the games in the Fast series. It's not the largest franchise, but for the last 4 Nintendo home consoles, this series has had a new release. And so for today's video, I thought I would rank these 4 games from worst to best, give each one of them a little review, see which ones are worth playing, which ones you should skip, and seeing if there's any fun to be had here. This is an underrated little series of racing games that usually is not in the spotlight, but I'm happy to give this series the time of day since racing games really are one of my favorite video game genres, and if I can create even one new fan of this series, I think I did a pretty decent job. So obviously this series was inspired by F-Zero and Wipeout, but it's much more comparable to Wipeout than F-Zero. If you've played both of these series, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. People enjoy these games because you get to go, as the name implies, really freaking fast. These games have great senses of speed, tight controls, interesting tracks, nice soundtracks, and usually they're real lookers as well. And they're some of the most rewarding futuristic racers out there because, you know, this is such a packed subgenre. Alright, all jokes aside, we're going to be stacking these games up against each other. I'll be sharing my thoughts, feelings, memories, etc. This intro's gone on long enough. Let's get to the games. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Got the Patreon and the super thanks. Any support is truly greatly appreciated. Seriously, thank you so much. I even got memberships. So, of these 4 games, what's the weakest? Well, I believe that the weakest is actually the original Fast Racing League, released exclusively for WiiWare in 2011. Now, this game came out when the Wii was starting to wind down, but I remember when this came out, a lot of people, especially the WiiWare enthusiasts, really took notice of this one. It was a fast, stylish, slick, futuristic racing game, and that simply just wasn't seen on the Wii. There sure as hell wasn't any Wipeout or F-Zero games released for the platform, and it feels like this really was the closest we ever got to that. That and this game was a real looker, especially for the Wii. Like, this is legitimately one of the best looking WiiWare titles of them all. It even looks decent nowadays. There's some nice, cool looking vehicles, some really well detailed environments, and the frame rate is actually rock solid. Like, it is impressive to this day just how stable the frame rate is. I think you could easily convince most people that this is a 360 game, or at the very least an Xbox Live arcade game from that era. Like, it really does look that nice. But I guess it wouldn't really matter all that much if the gameplay wasn't up to snuff. Thankfully it is, and this is a pretty fun racer. So funny enough, when you start the game, it's not off to the races. You actually have to do a tutorial where the game teaches you all of its mechanics, and it gets you prepared to go really fast. But let's go over that moment-to-moment gameplay now. So this is a very high-speed racer that sees you racing a number of other quick vehicles in an attempt to reach first place. One of this game's main mechanics is the phase shift, which allows players to switch their vehicles between light and dark phases. As you're racing along these tracks, you'll see light and dark colored pads. If your vehicle is the corresponding color, you'll actually get a huge boost from them. If you're the wrong color though, it'll slow your ass down considerably, so you'll want to be switching back and forth to try to get as many boosts and jumps as possible to maintain your speed. Something else that helps you maintain your speed is boosting. Along these tracks there are tons of energy orbs, and by collecting these you'll be able to boost, allowing you to, you know, move at rapid speed. This game has a great sense of speed. It is breakneck, it is lightning fast, and the further you get into it, the faster and faster you'll get to go. The courses become more interesting, they start having you go off these crazy jumps, there's loops, and plenty of tight ass turns. There's a number of obstacles that'll show up on these tracks as well, like sometimes ice shows up and it's all slippery. But it also depends on the vehicle that you're piloting as well. There's a number of different vehicles to choose from in this game. When you start it, you only have 2, but as you play through it, you unlock more and more, and these are actually decently different from each other. They feel different when it comes to the weight, and that can actually really affect the handling. But I think for the most part, all of the vehicles handle well enough. The game in general handles well enough. and it has a good feel to it. It's also quite challenging. This might be the hardest game in the entire series. Like, you're gonna need some good reflexes and a good memory when it comes to these tracks. Like, some of them really are not messing around. There isn't a ton of tracks in this game, but you're going to be seeing them a hell of a lot. There's 3 different difficulty modes for these 3 cups, and with the amount of times I crashed or drove off the side of a cliff, yeah, I saw these tracks a number of times. There's a bit of trial and error here, and some vehicles are clearly just much better than others, but all in all, I would still say that this is an enjoyable racer. The music's pretty nice too, which is always a plus in my book. Sure, it's not overflowing with content, it does take a bit of time to get used to, and the vehicles aren't the most balanced, but again, this was a WiiWare title. Speaking of, with it being a WiiWare title, that means that the game is no longer commercially accessible. If you want to play this game in the current year, you either bought the game way back in the day, or you're sailing the high seas. But hey, if you're sailing, at least you're sailing towards a decent little game. And so here we have Fast Racing Neo, which initially released for the Wii U in 2015. While this one was initially released on the eShop, it did actually get a physical release in Europe and Australia the following year, which, yeah, is a pretty limited release, but at least it got a physical of some kind, unlike Fast Racing League. And physical is always good because of scenarios like this where the Wii U eShop was shut down and there's pretty much no way to play this game nowadays. But anyway, if you are able to play it, you're in for a pretty fun futuristic racer. The game really is a follow-up on Fast Racing League, as it not only plays very similarly, but it really cranks things up to the next level. They brought back the simple control scheme and the phase changing. Instead of it being light and dark, now it's orange and blue. And there's even more instances to use the phase boosting than the prior game. The courses are more interesting, they're more dense, and I feel like they're just overall better designed. Like the previous game, there's a number of different vehicles to choose from. It's a little bit more balanced here, but again, some vehicles are just clearly way better than others, and it still is relatively challenging. As challenging as Fast Racing League, I don't know about that one. I didn't think there was as much trial and error. These courses didn't have a bunch of crazy drops and tight-ass turns like the first game sometimes did, but it still was challenging nonetheless. Like the first game, you still collect these little energy orbs, and that gives you boost, allowing you to go super fast, and yeah, you'll go ridiculously fast in this game. You go way faster than the prior game. The game has a great sense of speed to it, and it does feel really high velocity. It gets up there with Wipeout and F-Zero when it comes to speed. Does it have the depth or complexity of either of those futuristic racers? Not really, but it still is a pretty fun time. At the very least though, it has the presentation to back it up. This is a great looking game for the Wii U, the frame rate is super solid, and everything is surprisingly well detailed considering how fast you're flying by everything, and the music, the music's real good in this one. The presentation is clearly an area where this series excels at, and they didn't stop with this second game. When it comes to this game's content, it's pretty much on par with the first one. It's got just as many courses, and even though there's less trial and error, I feel like you'll be playing this one around the same amount of time. Of course, there's local multiplayer, but this game actually did feature online multiplayer. It went up to 8 players, and I say did because the Wii U's online services were shut down, but that was pretty cool. This went online, and yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I would say that outside of Mario Kart 8 and Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transform, this is easily the best racing game for the Wii U. I don't know of any other racing games besides the 3 I just mentioned, but hey, at least this game is in good company. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, this game isn't exactly widely available since it was for the Wii U digitally, but that's not the end of the world, and you'll understand in a little bit. And so here we have Fast Fusion, the latest entry in this series, and it released with the Switch 2 on June 5th, 2025. Now, I was decently excited for this one. I thought this series might be dead, but nope, we got a new one, and it's actually pretty cool. It's certainly the best looking game in the franchise. It's the first one to fully support HDR, and runs up to 4K, and man, this game really is a looker. It might arguably be the best looking game on the Switch 2 it released, that or Cyberpunk 2077. The game runs at a rock solid, steady 60 frames per second with virtually no slowdown. It has some amazing looking environments, just some delightful weather effects, and the vehicles look just as great as ever. Like, this is just a really good looking game. And the music's pretty swell in this one. I really got nothing but positive things to say about this game's presentation and price point. This game was released for only $15. Yeah, in a world where Mario Kart is $80, we get this nice little racer for $15. And it's also pretty good to boot. Like the other fast games, it's all about trying to get through these courses as fast as possible and win the race. But of course, you'll be going up against other racers who move blisteringly fast and are trying to get to the finish line before you. But like the other fast games, you really have two tricks up your sleeve. You can switch between the colors, and if you go over the corresponding color, you'll get a nice boost of speed, and sometimes it's in the air as well, allowing you to just fly forward, and of course you can boost. You'll boost by collecting these orbs or smashing into other racers, and it's all going to be very useful, and you're going to need to master this game's mechanics and tracks if you want to beat this game. These tracks are not as straightforward as it seems. There's plenty of shortcuts, alternate pathways, and hidden boost orbs, and the AI are very aware of what's on these courses. They will go for these, they will boost as much as they can. They're not messing around. The game actually can get pretty challenging, and naturally, the sense of speed, oh, it's pretty up there. This might be the fastest in the entire series. These vehicles also handle incredibly well. It doesn't really matter which one you've chosen. They all have a nice feel to them, and they do feel different from each other. Something that's pretty cool about Fast Fusion is the entire fusion mechanic, how you can fuse your favorite vehicles together to create some monstrosities and abominations, but thanks to this, there's legit hundreds of different vehicles to choose from, and I think that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, there isn't hundreds of different tracks to choose from. The track selection is actually pretty small in this game. It's quite a bit smaller than Fast RMX, and even though all of the tracks are incredibly varied from each other, and I wouldn't say that there's a bad one in here, I really wish there was just more. We could use many more courses than this, and at times it did start to get a little repetitive with how many times I played through some of these courses, especially on the new superhero mode, which is where the game just goes full hardcore mode and it tells you can't crash, you don't want to run out of boost, and it's really just not messing around. I only finished like one course in this mode because it's way more challenging than I thought it would be. Of course, time trials returns here as well. It's challenging as well. This is just a tough game in general, but it can be quite rewarding. There is one big omission with this game though that has me just kind of scratching my head, and that's that there's no online. There's local multiplayer, but there's no online to speak of, at least not currently while I'm recording this video. I was really hoping I could race some of you online or maybe have a fun community night. Nope, none of that's happening. Who knows, maybe the game will get some updates to it. I certainly hope so. I think if they add online multiplayer and just a bunch more courses, this really could be the best of the entire Fast series. It certainly has the potential. The moment-to-moment gameplay is absolutely there. The controls are great, it feels nice, the speed is there, it's got the game modes and the vehicles. It just doesn't have the multiplayer or the tracks to it. But I'm rooting for this one. I hope it eventually does become the best in the entire Fast series. I'll keep an eye on it because it's a really fun time. It's one of the best futuristic racing games I played in the last few years, and I have no problem recommending it. If you just got your Switch 2 and you're not entirely sure what to play on it other than Mario Kart, check this one out. You'll be pleasantly surprised. And here we have Fast RMX releasing with the Nintendo Switch on March 3rd in 2017. Yeah, it came out with Breath of the Wild day one. And I do believe that this is the best of the entire Fast series, and it was a bit overlooked. We really did get more than just Breath of the Wild at release. We also got the third game in this series, but it's not just the third game in the Fast series, it actually includes everything from Fast Racing Neo as well. All of the courses, vehicles, DLC, everything. Basically making that original Wii U release kinda obsolete. Like, everything's here, and then there's actually a good amount of new content as well. 6 months after the game's release, there was even a decent sized update to the game which added even more courses. This is easily the most content complete Fast game of them all, and it's a great time. Graphically, the game doesn't look considerably better than the Wii U game, but the Wii U game also looked pretty good. It does look better here though. The environments are really stunning, there's some awesome weather effects, and the vehicles, yeah, these just look great. And they also feel great as well. The handling in this game is excellent. It is better than the Wii U game, and certainly a lot better than that original Wii game. They really nailed the physics and feel with this one. They also nailed the sense of speed. Like, you go just blisteringly fast in this game. It gets pretty hectic with how fast you go. At times feeling almost white knuckle, and it can get pretty challenging. Like, this game actually can get relatively difficult, especially when you get to the harder difficulties. Like, it can actually be pretty punishing. 1 or 2 bad turns or flying off the side of a course, and that might be it for the entire race. Like, the game really is just not messing around, and the AI aren't dumb dumb as rocks here either. I wouldn't even say that it's super rubber bandy, they're just actually kinda smart, and rarely make big time mistakes, especially on the harder difficulties. Like all of the other fast games, you'll be switching between two different colors, and if you go over the corresponding color, you'll get either a big jump or a nice boost from it, and if you're the wrong color, yeah, it's gonna slow your ass down. And there's plenty of tracks where you're constantly just flip-flopping between the colors, and when you get locked in, when you're in the zone and you're just changing them super fast to go as fast as humanly possible, it feels really nice and it gets pretty engaging. This game's speed is just about unparalleled. Fast Fusion is about as fast as this one, but something that this game has over Fast Fusion is content. This game has a way more content than Fast Fusion does, and that's without the update. But with the update, this game has 36 courses to it, the most of any of the fast games. There's tons of different vehicles to choose from, and they all actually feel rather different from each other. Some of them are heavy as shit and take forever to turn in comparison to some of the more lighter, nimble vehicles that just zip all around, and I think it's pretty cool how different some of these feel from each other. There is more to this game though than just the Grand Prix. There's another mode called Hero Mode, which utilizes the same tracks as the main mode, but it's much more difficult than the main mode, and there's actually a unique twist here where it's like F-Zero and the boost meter doubles as a health bar. So yeah, you aren't just collecting these little orbs for boost. Now if you want to get health, you got to collect these also, and I think this is a pretty great addition. Yeah, it is a little, derivative of F-Zero or whatever, but that's fine with me. It's not like F-Zero is going to show up to take this game's lunch money. Their ass is getting hounded by the police for truancy at this point. It feels like we're never going to see another F-Zero. But that's not a conversation for here. We're here to talk about the awesome Fast RMX. I think this is a great extra mode, and then the game's got tons of multiplayer options as well. Of course, there is local, but the game also goes online as well. You can play online. I'm sure there's still people playing this game online, and it was always a fun time, especially when the Switch 1 launched and there wasn't a ton of games for this thing yet. It was like, wow, there's this really cool futuristic racing game, and all these years later, I can certainly say it's the best futuristic racing game on the Switch. Really the best of like the entire last generation. I mean, it's either this or Wipeout Omega Collection, but Omega Collection is pretty good. Either way, Fast RMX is an excellent futuristic racer that I have no problem recommending to anybody that likes racing games. It's the best this series has to offer, and while it isn't the most complex or nuanced racer, it still feels really great and lets you go fast as shit. Like, I just love how fast you go in this game, and it's why I came back to it a few times after that initial release. That or to mess around with the time trials, which actually do get rather difficult. Either way, I'm just glad that this series isn't dead. It feels like a series such as Fast wouldn't really exist in today's era, that being a more budget, bite-sized racer that you play for a few hours and then you're done with. But here we are, and I think they're pretty great. I think this is an underrated series that doesn't get enough attention or love, and hopefully today's video spotlighted just how great these games can be. So if you're interested in them at all, I'd recommend Fast RMX and Fast Fusion to anybody that likes racing games, futuristic or not. And so with that, I hope you all have a wonderful day. If you made it to this part of the video, you gotta let me know if you want to try any of these games or if you've played any of them in the past. You'll get a heart from me, and yeah, stay safe everybody. Have a wonderful day.